One of the biggest things for me that was a hindrance in a sense was I was competing in my own weird, twisted way in my head with my very athletic husband and thinking I need to do all of the things that he was doing in order to find my balance and to stay fit. And it took me so long to realize no, my fitness journey and my plan are going to look how that looks for me.
What's up, Blueprint family? Today's topic is the dangers of competing with your spouse. Now, we just heard from Aisha Curry, and she said that she was competing in her own weird, twisted way in her head with her husband. Um, Now, we wanted to talk about um, competition with relationships and relationships, and as those are red flags in relationships. Now, competition is different. Well, we're not talking about like friendly competition where you're, playing a board game and talking smack with your spouse and trying to enjoy the game, or, I don't know, playing basketball with your spouse and having a friendly game of basketball, playing video games with your spouse. But what we're talking about is Aisha Curry and how, we have a timeline of we've all seen her in the media, social media, with her trying to compete with her husband with her DMs. Now we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
Um,
mainly just how being competitive in any nature, just having that type of attitude in your relationship will leach over into other areas of
hmm
your relationship. And like you were saying, we definitely see that with them in particular being played out in various ways because we all remember the infamous Red Table Talk, how she was like, oh, no man's in my DMs.
right, and that's, to me, that's disgusting. I cannot fathom the thought of my wife trying to compete with me because of positive things that's going on in my life. To me, I look at that as a win for both of us. When I win, my wife wins. When I lose, we both lose. But when it comes down to your spouse independently wanting to compete with you because you're doing well, you have a problem on your hands. Now, it's not positive, and it's not conducive to anyone's relationship when you have to wake up every morning when you're realizing that my wife or my spouse, my husband, looks at me as a competitor. Ultimately, what that turns into is an enemy. You're sleeping with your enemy. Now, I've seen from experience situations to where spouses compete when it comes to incomes, money. That's a real big one with spouses. And then, hopefully not in marriages. My goodness, if you're competing with your spouse in your marriage, that is something that you all really need to talk about, really need to lay out on the table and resolve.
Yeah, because it really comes from a place of insecurity. And in a way, like envy,
hmm
which can only breed more hate and jealousy,
Right,
which is really, really toxic.
right.
That's super, super toxic. Women and men just really have to be mindful of that. Like you said, like, especially within the workplace, like you get a promotion and then next thing you know, your husband may be trying to get another promotion and then you may be like, oh, well, I got to get a better promotion than that. And, it's just a deadly cycle. And then what else do you try to one up your partner in?
hmm I mean, it could be as something as small as, like, Aisha Curry is DMs. Like, my goodness, like you can't enjoy your husband and his successes. When he wins, you win.
You don't even want these men.
Right. You don't even want these men who are in your DMs. Or, why is it that she has such a competitive mindset? And I kind of question how Stefan didn't see this in the beginning, as far as her being such a competitor in their relationship. Now, I know that the topic that she was talking about was weight loss.
Mhm.
And she stated she was competing in her own weird, twisted way in her head with her husband.
Yeah.
And then she said that she had to stop doing that and find out what works for her.
And to me, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that even sounds a little worse than like going to your husband and being like, "Hey, honey, let's go to the gym and see who can lose the most amount of weight within
Right.
less amount of time." Because your husband's not even involved in this competitive situation you've concocted in your head in a way.
Right.
You know, it's just you in your mind, and
Secret
he's
competition.
yeah, and he's kind of like out of the loop, like maybe even wondering what's wrong, like why are you feeling the way you do, or you know.
Right. And what if you're in a situation where you're competing with your spouse like this, it is time to take a time out,
Yeah.
have a conversation and communicate if you are doing that. Now, it will be good on you, or it would be a better judgment of character if you're the competitor to sit down and evaluate yourself, come to terms, and then tell the truth to your partner that you're doing this and you're operating out of, I don't know, you're struggling with something.
Yeah.
Aisha Curry is struggling with something
Mhm.
in her life. More than likely, I don't know, started from childhood. It looks like she feels insecure, thinking that she's not good enough.
Right. Which is so like baffling because look who your husband is. Like you mean you have a top tier man, you know, one of a kind, and you can't appreciate the fact that you have him and
Right,
like just be and just think of how special that makes you. You
right,
know, like instead you don't feel that for yourself. You feel the need to, I guess, I don't know. And like you were saying earlier, it's not that we're saying simple competition of, you know, maybe what may be considered healthy, but just in general, I think competition within a relationship, the thought of competition, competing with your spouse will breed negativity somewhere else along the line. Like, for example, we actually did a little research before this and found the following 20 competitive signs that suggest you're in a competitive relationship.
well, they're 19 now, remember?
Yeah, yeah, because we were child of elimination things that we didn't quite agree with. But so we found some really good ones for you guys. So this is definitely something for you all to pay attention to if you are in a relationship, if you are in a marriage, or if you are single and starting your journey, just making sure you don't bring these type of behaviors into your marriage or relationship because it's toxic. So I guess, babe, I'll start with the first one. You aren't happy when your spouse succeeds at something.
Right.
Mm.
Yep. And then it goes on to say, instead of celebrating your spouse's successes, if you're being too competitive, oh, sorry about that. If you're being too competitive, you likely feel envious and maybe a little hostile or insecure when your partner or your spouse accomplishes something, such as getting a promotion or winning an award. Um, we can see those situations, like I was saying, with pay raises, breadwinning. You know, normally the man is the breadwinner in traditional marriages, traditional relationships. And I understand now that economically things have changed. And now you may see men feel as if they are less manly because they make less money
Yeah.
than their spouse. But ultimately, you need to talk about that in your relationship because your wife has your back.
Mm-hmm.
If she's still there with you and you all are have peace in the relationship, don't dwell on money as being an issue. Men, what you need to do is figure out ways to advance your careers.
Right.
If you feel some sort of insecurity, now don't compete at all with your spouse. It's not her fault that she makes more money than you. Or women, it's not your man's fault that he makes more money with you, because on average, men make more money than women do throughout their lifetime. That's naturally.
Mm-hmm.
That's a natural occurring thing. I know I speak on double standards all the time, and I like to point those things out because we are not equal. We're not the same.
Yeah.
It's just there's just double standards that come with reality.
And you know, that's okay too, because the whole dynamic between a man and a woman is supposed to be like if you if one person is really good at this area, they do that part, they play their part because they're good at that. If the other person is really good in that area, then they play their part and they're good at that. And then everybody comes together and create shared goals and celebrate, like the first one. Instead of doing that, not celebrating, you actually do celebrate the wins of your spouses because that's a win for the team.
Right. Yeah, I like
ultimately.
that. I like that shared goal thing. You know,
Yeah.
if you all are both in careers, and you know, you all say that, honey, okay, next year we're gonna make $10,000 extra between both of
Mhm.
us.
Yeah, and just
Let that be a
see
goal.
how you can do it. Yeah.
Right. Work together in the relationship. Your partner is your best asset when it comes to relationships, as far as team building and creating more money. So figure
Yeah.
out ways together that you all can advance
Right.
in the
Yeah.
relationship. So next, number 2, similar to the last sign, you actually find yourself getting angry with your spouse. Um, when you're what is it? Getting
When your
angry
spouse
when
does
your spouse
something
does
well.
something well.
Yeah.
So that goes kind of, you know, that's still like the same as first, as number 1. Why are we getting upset when somebody's doing something good?
Yeah, especially your spouse.
Hmm.
Even like something like weight loss, like kind of where we were talking about before. If you're in the gym, you have maybe a healthy, we're all saying not really any competition is healthy, but if you do, you're trying to see who can lose the most weight. And instead of being happy that your spouse has lost a good amount of weight, you're not happy because they lost that amount of weight. And you're like, you're jealous, like,
Right.
you cheated, or,
Right.
whatever you say to hate in the way.
Right.
But that's why we were saying competition in general in your relationship will breed some kind of envy, resentment, hate, jealousy.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that these things are more so prevalent in younger relationships, those
Really?
girlfriend boyfriend relationships. But as you can see, Aisha Curry mindset is not that far from that girlfriend boyfriend relationship.
Yeah, but they're married with
Right. So
children.
this is a real example of people who are far along in their relationships, but they still maintain these childish mindsets. It's an example. I mean, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that this type of stuff goes on because it can ultimately contributes to divorce
Yep.
or separation between you and your spouse.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, we just want to raise awareness on this and provide these tips. So another sign is since you feel angry and resentful when your spouse succeeds, you may actually begin to hope they will fail. That's horrible. So I
Mhm.
mean, I've seen this too, that you're in a position to where both of you are competing over money, and then you're just hoping that that spouse lose their job out of for some reason unknown to me.
Mhm.
I've seen these situations to where resentment is there, and you're just hoping that your spouse does worse than you do today. That
Mhm.
is crazy. That's not even a relationship. That's, you know, that's your enemy. That is your enemy.
Yeah, that's definitely enemy behavior.
Right. Um, the next one is you feel the need to one up your spouse in multiple areas of life.
Mhm.
So if you find your spouse always competing with you when you're cooking, cleaning,
Gracious.
um, doing yard work, going grocery shopping, you
Mhm.
know, you have you have to really sit back and then trying to figure out ways to talk about this problem that you all are experiencing.
Yeah, we're
Be,
gonna get into some solutions.
right.
Yeah.
And we will get into some solutions, but we just wanted to lay this all out here so that you all can reflect on
Yeah.
these topics that we're giving you all. These are real situations that couples go through, and then without consciousness don't even think about it, you know. So we're just trying to bring this to the light, and show you all what we're talking about as far as competition within relationships, unhealthy competition in relationships.
Mhm.
And then next, you secretly celebrate when your spouse fails at something. We already talked about that. Okay. When your spouse succeeds at a task that is within your area of strength or expertise, you begin to doubt yourself and your abilities.
Mm.
that is your problem. You need to figure that out. You need to get some therapy about that, because all of that is saying is that you have a self-esteem issue, you're insecure about something, and sometimes you may not even know why. It might be some other traumatic experience you've had in your life that you need to rectify and resolve. Um, a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff that I'm reading looks like someone's carrying baggage into their relationship.
Mhm.
Think about that now. If you're carrying baggage into your relationship, you need to iron all of that out. Fix it before you get into your relationship or a new relationship, because it's not fair to your partner.
Yeah.
They didn't do these things to you.
Yeah,
To,
and you're
to
not even able to love your partner in the best of your abilities because you're not feeling your best, you
right,
know? You're
right,
feeling insecure and down. And the crazy thing is it's kind of like created out of nowhere because your spouse clearly loves you
right,
and clearly adores who you are and thinks you are, top tier. They chose you,
right,
So for you to not feel that way, the next one is when you actually feel that if your talents are diminished because of your spouse, you don't feel you're as talented. That goes right back to the insecurity. That challenging of your partner is really from an insecurity within yourself because you may not feel worthy, or you don't feel like you're good enough. Well, that's definitely what worthy means, but yeah, definitely all around. And that's really something that has to be worked on within so that it doesn't leach out into your relationship and kind of in a way self-sabotage the relationship.
right. And next, it seems as if you and your spouse are not on the same page, and you tend to do most things separately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's probably not by far the worst out of this list. Sometimes doing things separately is okay, especially if you all are not agreeing and having issues.
Mm-hmm.
But when the first part, when it says that you are not on the same page, to
Right.
me this seems as if there's a lack of communication.
Mm-hmm.
A lack of communication, explaining something that that person did to you or you didn't like. Normally you might see this situation where you go off and do your thing and they go off and do their thing, which is fine. You want to cool heads and then come back, have a discussion, conversation about something that may have happened, an argument that started an argument, and then you all can talk about it, make things better.
Or even like with the money example that we used earlier, how if you are in a relationship and you come up with a money goal, but instead of you doing that goal together, you go out and get separate bank accounts, and now you're competing to see how much money you can get in this bank account, and your spouse doesn't even know anything about that bank account, and it's just something that you've gone and done, for the heck of it, the competitive nature of it. So even something like that, like that's sad. Separate.
Right. Yeah, no separate bank accounts.
You can
That ain't
have
cool. That ain't cool. I mean, but your spouse should know
prior
about it though.
discuss, right? Prior discuss,
No secret bank
right,
accounts.
right,
What is that about?
right, right,
You know,
right,
maybe we need to talk about secret bank accounts.
right.
But
Yep. Well, the next one is you find that you and your spouse keep score on everything from who made more money last year to who ran the kids, the soccer practice the most time last month, or who cleaned the bathroom the most times, or who
right,
fed the dog the most times, or who, little silly stuff like that. That goes right back to how we were saying it can just breed and leach into other, parts of your life where you shouldn't even be competing. Like that's silly,
yeah, it is.
That's really
That's
silly.
that's ridiculous. And then what else? While you may be unhappy when your spouse succeeds, if you are being too competitive, you may notice that your spouse is not happy for you when you accomplish something either. In fact, your spouse may belittle your success, acting like they are not a big deal.
Yeah.
So that means that your spouse. I mean, that just sounds like a grumpy person that's in a relationship.
Yeah, belittling something that you
A
won a great
miserable,
championship, and they're like, "Oh, you've won that
right,
before."
right.
Like,
It's being miserable. Underlying issues. If this type of behavior is coming out of nowhere, you all need to go to that person really needs to go to counseling first, separate, and figure it out why they're so miserable.
Yeah,
You know, um,
within yourself.
right?
Because that, like we were saying, that with Aisha Curry, how she was saying it was in herself, this area of feeling like she was being competitive. So that really just shows everything is created from within first, and then it manifests within the outside through your relationships or however it chooses to
Yeah,
manifest.
because
Yeah.
that was the vibes that I'm getting from her too. She's so miserable. She is so miserable for having so much success and having a husband who's so successful.
But how can you be miserable at that? I don't know. I don't know if she's miserable, because there's no way. You have a beautiful family, a great success. Like you can't be miserable. But maybe like you're insecure, like
Yeah,
because of,
yeah, but I mean that makes you miserable.
or maybe you feel unworthy. Maybe it's a dealing of, maybe you don't feel good enough or something for
No,
whatever reason. Like,
I don't think so because she would be more humble when she comes off and speaks to the media. She would sound more humbling or humble when she speaks. I'm not getting those vibes from her. It just sounds like she's insecure of herself and she wants the fame that he has. That's what it is. She's like she's insecure and she's jealous
instead of
of him.
being like, she doesn't want to be Aisha Curry, the wife of Stephen Curry, but more so like,
The cook, she has a cook show. She got cookware. What else does she do?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but she has a platform
Yeah.
to where that she can what do you call it? That she can express herself.
Yeah.
But why is it? What's wrong with just being a mother to his children? Why she just can't be proud in that?
And his wife and stuff.
Right, and his wife and being his wife. You know, I I understand that women want other projects and things to do, but the number one thing is that when she approaches the media, she really should reflect on what she says before she say it and how it would affect her husband and how society will look at her before she speaks. She really needs to think about that, if you ask me, for my opinion.
Yeah.
um
Oh, if you are being too competitive, you and your spouse may do things to make each other jealous. That's interesting. Like, you may flaunt your successes or talk about how a mutual friend complimented your recent promotion at work. Something like that. Wow, that's very interesting. You're trying to make your spouse jealous. That, that's not good. Maybe putting on like a seductive clothing and stuff like that, like for attention to make your spouse jealous, and to say like, oh, I'm getting looks and views and stuff, like all of that. That can be very toxic within the relationship for sure, because you don't want your spouse to be jealous. They got you, especially your husband.
yeah, that one's kind of more, that one's not much of a big deal to me.
You think, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just, to me, that's just, you may flaunt your success or talk about a mutual friend complimented your recent promotion at work.
Well, that's if you're trying to make them jealous. Like, that's my thing. You're trying to make your spouse jealous. Why?
Well, you must be really trying to convey that message to your spouse and be like, look, I'm the man because such and such said that, I'm doing it big at work, and then you ain't doing nothing. It's gotta be some sort of belittling done here. But to me, that's not the worst of the worst of this list.
True.
But yep.
Or it seems that you and your spouse are constantly pointing out each other's flaws, not in a constructive form, but rather to hurt each other's feelings. Like you were saying with the belittling. Yeah.
Yep. And then also to go along with it, I know that when you're in an argument, saying always and generalizing and not based on facts. So that's something that we shouldn't do. If you're getting into an argument over this stuff, stop saying you always do such and such, such and such, such and such. And then generalizing not based on facts. Somebody doesn't always do something. That's not true. But what you need to do is go ahead and you can state facts. Like, last week this happened like this, and ultimately it made me feel bad. I don't know if you know this or not, but I would appreciate it if we could find some other way to do this, or if you could do this another way.
Yeah.
have a conversation and draw into a compromise. I think that's the best thing to do in those situations. That seems like, over generalizing and over saying always somebody does something. They don't always do stuff in relationships. That's an argument thing that goes on. Catch yourself when you say that. And then if you're the one saying that, apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. You don't always do this. But I'm just trying to get you to understand.
Yeah.
Really tell how you feel instead of over generalizing, exaggerating statements and claims, and actually base your argument based on facts. Factual conversations are more productive. Factual arguments are more productive than ones that are based off of generalizations and lies. That only makes things worse.
Oh, that goes right into the next one, which is the relationship may involve lies or secrets because you are afraid to tell your spouse when you fail at something. In addition, you may exaggerate your accomplishments in order to feel superior.
Right. That goes into what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's not good to exaggerate anything in a relationship, and especially lies. You lose trust when you're in a relationship and start telling lies, and you can gain trust by telling the truth and apologize. That's the way to fix that. If no one ever told you all that, to gain trust is by apologizing and telling the truth, and then putting that into action.
Not
So,
doing it anymore. Yeah.
right. So,
Yeah.
that is one that I think that's a good one. Accomplishments in order to appear superior. Bragging.
Yeah.
Bragging in relationships. I that is a that is something that I think bragging probably annoys a lot of people in relationships. If you're with somebody who brags a lot,
Mhm.
I want to know how you all work through that.
Yeah, call in.
What are some things that you all do to work through, having a relationship with somebody who brags a lot? That has to be by far the most annoying thing in the world. To me, it is. Luckily, my wife doesn't brag. If anything, she will come to me with her sweet self and say, "Look, honey, look what happened today, or look what I did today." Because those are her accomplishments, and we praise those accomplishments. We rejoice in them and say, "Oh, good job, cool."
Mhm.
Even if a long day at work for me, and I always like to chime in and make sure that she gets her roses whenever she accomplishes something. With my wife being a housewife, so I understand how important that is, having adult conversations with me. So we do need to make sure we don't brag in relationships. It is
Mhm.
completely annoying,
Yeah.
and it can go without. It
Yeah.
can really go without.
The other one is kind of about the same thing, but more in particular, bragging to your spouse about when someone tells you that you're attractive or you compliment your appearance, or when somebody else flirts with you, which
Hmm.
is very interesting. That kind of goes back to the whole jealousy thing. That's interesting because I never thought of it being like a competitive thing. So to put that in that perspective is different because, wow, I guess so. Because which is weird though, because you know that your spouse thinks you're beautiful or attractive or whatever. They wouldn't be with you if they didn't. So I don't know. I guess to point out that somebody else is saying the same thing is kind of competitive because you're just trying to say, oh,
If you make it that way,
yeah.
have you seen the new trend of the Sigma male? Have you
Mm-mm.
heard of that? The Sigma male. I've seen it on social media recently, and it's basically the only example I saw of it. Now you all can comment on it and tell us more about it. But it was a woman flirting with a man who already has a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's like, no, thank you, get off me. Or
Mm-hmm.
either you just laugh, you're like, oh no, 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 thank you. It's basically not showing the other person attention because you are proud with who you're with.
Okay.
And so you see those examples. They show examples of that, what a Sigma male is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was cool that they're trying to make that a terminology of pretty much of a committed man.
Okay.
and then you can see that, and they show signs of that in public. A sigma male. So
That's interesting.
when it doesn't even bother you, like if someone flirt with you, you just laugh, hell, thank you, and then just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Don't even try to take part in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's nice.
you
That's
know,
actually humble.
right. And yeah, so I've experienced that, you know, with messages, LinkedIn messages and stuff. Just keep it moving. Like, okay, thank you, keep it moving. You know, this is all business, but yeah. So, or either like when you go to the grocery store, you tell me this guy complimented me. You know, I'm like, oh, cool. You know, you still got it. You know, that's the way I look at it. You still got it, and you do, and I love you.
Mine's is actually just because they're a little creepy. And
Oh,
I
you
like
do?
to
Oh, you
share
see,
that with you.
you never told me the creep part of it, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, hey, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
And then 17, instead of trying to reach a compromise when in the midst of a disagreement, you and your spouse fight to win. You do not truly have a desire to come to a mutual agreement as a team, but instead it's more of a sport where one person loses and the other wins. Now, to me, that is that can be seen in almost any argument, those heated arguments. You don't want to lose a heated argument. You lost focus of working together in that moment in time. You don't have to take your argument this far when you just slam out this cursing the other person out and just trashing them and digging into their past and things that don't matter and just belittling and berating the other person. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You need to take a step back from the situation, cool down, and then revisit it with your spouse when you both are ready. You don't have to take it that far. Don't take it to a point of no return where you all, when you think you're winning the argument, but you're actually losing the relationship.
That's a good one.
Yeah, don't take it that far. So don't take an argument to the point of no return when you are winning the argument but losing the relationship. That's not healthy. It does not produce a solid outcome or provide. It shakes up the foundation of your relationship a whole lot. Builds distrust. Makes people walk on eggshells if you're arguing that way. Makes the person not want to do anything to try to argue with you. Feelings get hurt. So be mindful of that.
It's halftime. I would love if we could show this video one more time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just in case. So you guys, just in case anybody tunes in.
And one of the biggest things for me that was a hindrance in a sense was I was competing in my own weird, twisted way in my head with my very athletic husband and thinking I need to do all of the things that he was doing in order to find my balance and to stay fit. And it took me so long to realize, no, my fitness journey and my plan are going to look how that looks for.
Yeah. It's a good thing at least she came to that conclusion and that she's able to be honest in the media, because as much as we want to say this is toxic, to challenge your husband in any sense, whether in your head or in person, legitly in his face, it's still toxic. And it's yet occurring though very often in relationships. This isn't something that is rare, believe it or not. Like, I've heard this before.
My thing is that it's like she said, it took her a very long time to realize that competing was not the right thing, and that she had to design her own pretty much weight loss journey. I don't get it. Aisha Curry just likes to compete with her husband in different facets of her life, different areas of her life, like the DM thing. I can't get past that with her. That disgusts me. It really disgusts me. This is a man that you're trying to compete with, which is your husband. I understand the weight loss journey. You know, that could be a friendly competition. She didn't come off that way as if it was something friendly to her. It was more so something personal. I feel like sometimes Aisha Curry just wakes up in the morning and looks at Stefan, and then she just thinks of him as an enemy.
I don't think
It
so.
because those are the vibes that I'm getting. This is the second time
Oh,
she's coming up here saying that there's some sort of form of competition. But like it really that's just those are just things that I'm
yeah,
perceiving. But ultimately, what it is that she's insecure about herself, um, and
that's dangerous.
she's jealous of his successes, evidently in
Yeah.
some sort of way. But most of it is insecurities.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
dangerous because she's a beautiful woman. And but I get that also too. It's another dynamic that we I guess kind of haven't hit on is the fact that they are celebrities. So with her being in such a limelight position, she may feel like she has to do more because her husband is in the limelight and doing so much, and she doesn't feel like she's doing enough. But again, that's an insecurity because she's more than I'm sure worthy of his love. She probably doesn't have to do anything. He probably doesn't even want her to do anything.
sh- it- you know, um, she's a wife. Number one, she's a wife.
Yeah.
As long she needs to fulfill her wifely duties. That's the main thing. Support this man, support her family, take care of her kids.
Mhm.
Have pride in that. At the end of the day, why women cannot be prideful in taking care of family?
Yeah.
What's so wrong with that? With just that? I mean, I
Well, yeah.
understand that people have this burning desire to do more in life, but to me, the fulfillment should be in raising her family. To me, that's just my opinion.
But society has given us such a hard time about that, and it really takes you saying like, no, I'm whole within myself as a woman enough for you to be okay with being a wife and being a mother and whatever else it is you want to do. And it really just it's you within yourself saying, I'm good enough. I'm more than enough. I don't need to do anything extra because like society makes us feel like you're not good enough if you're just a wife or if you're just a mother. You're not doing enough. You're not doing more. You can do more. When, like I always say, I think I've said this multiple times so far, is that is one of the most important roles is being a wife and a mother because of the impact that you make on your next generation going out into the world and our society and building our communities and stuff. Our families are the ones that are going out here in this world. So just if you can be a good wife and a good mother, you're building a nice solid your foundation for your home with your husband to be secure and stuff in.
Right. One thing that I was thinking of just now was that I kind of digress a little bit, but high value men are not really they're really looking for women who can take care of their family and be in the wifely role
Mm-hmm.
of supporting their husbands, taking care of their family, not competing with them at all. A high value man doesn't want a wife that competes with him. She would be gone just like that, to be honest with you. Especially if money is not the number one reason why the man is with you. That's not first of all, that's not a high value man. Value man don't care about how much money you have because he can provide all of that for his family himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's an issue with um competition is an issue with a high value man. So women, if you're out there one trying to get a high value man, get that out of your head. The thought of competition,
Mm-hmm.
trying to compete with this man, because more than 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do it. And I think Aisha Curry understood that when she was talking about workout and weight loss. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, maybe sound like to me she was trying to get on his regimen, use his
Mm-hmm.
workout regimen,
Yeah.
and she can't keep up with that. She had 3 children. And this man is an elite NBA player, athlete, and she's trying to, which is, I commend her for trying,
Yeah.
but in all reality and actuality, you're not going to pace. You're not going to step pace with him
Yeah.
and trying to um, be as athletic as he is when it comes to exercise and
Mhm.
running, jumping, jogging, weightlifting, all of that. Like my
Exactly.
God. And first
Yeah.
of all, he's a man on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she doesn't have the grip strength to
Yeah.
lift the amount of weight that he can, deadlift the amount of weight that he can.
Yeah.
That that you know
And does he even want that? Like, is Steph Curry looking for his wife to be
that
him?
right.
Like, to do,
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how they got this far
where you're
in
competing
life
like that.
because evidently she competes with him ongoingly or periodically. Now, me, if I was in Stephanie's place before we ever had kids, and once I started seeing these red flags, I would have let her go. I would have let her go. It wouldn't have been that hard for me to figure this thing out. And I know that, he knew in college that he was going to go in a certain career and he was going to take off. But I believe they were dealing with each other in college. They were together since college. But once she started showing signs of jealousy, envy, and um, insecurities in that way, no, she would have been gone.
I'm sure he loves her. Sorry to cut out. I'm sure, love plays a huge
Yeah,
part in that.
right. I mean, and I commend him for putting up with that.
Hmm.
But the thing is that she has something going on with her that she needs help with that only she can fix,
Yeah.
and she hasn't fixed that yet.
Right. Well, you would hope she has, now that she's had this
What,
revelation
weight
of
loss?
more so the revelation that, oh, I'm competing with my husband and I don't need to do this. Like, this isn't healthy. But yes, it may be the first step is weight loss that she recognized it in, but then hopefully that made her step back, look at overall picture and see where else could I be competing with my husband and how do I stop this behavior, because it's
Right.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's very unhealthy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Man, I couldn't. I would dread waking up with you if I knew that you could try to compete with me every day or every other day or once a month or I don't know 3 times a year.
Right.
I don't know when it's coming. That would be a big pet peeve of mine
Mhm.
because I'm feeling like I need to walk on eggshells because we're about to start arguing soon because I don't like for my wife to compete with me. Men don't like it when women compete with them.
Right.
They don't because you know why? Her focus is not on the relationship and she's showing signs of selfishness. That is why.
Yeah, and it creates hostility,
Yes.
complete hostility, because the person's like, what is going on?
Right. So you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who's competing with you. You don't.
Right.
Try it, see what happens. You can have patience as long as the day. You can have patience as long as Stephen Curry. If you ask Stephen Curry, I'm pretty sure he has an opinion or something to say about it. And it's going to end in love because he
Yeah.
loves her. But he's going to have some sort of something to say in the beginning that is going to be a telltale sign that there is something wrong
Yeah.
there. If he's being honest.
Yeah, he probably doesn't like it.
Right.
Because think about it, he's so competitive within his just work life, like
Right.
basketball in general. He's
And he got to
super
come home and
competitive.
be competitive.
Yeah.
Damn. And so imagine you winning the NBA championship and then you come home and then your wife in jersey, a basketball jersey and shorts, standing at the basketball court at your house and say, "No, we got to play another, play 21." And you're like, "What? Like, why?"
Right.
Because you won and I need to beat you. Like that's competitive, and it makes you tired. That's all I'm trying to say. Competitiveness in relationships makes you tired. It wears you out.
I'm trying to read. We
It
have
wears
a
you out.
comment and I'm trying to read it. I'm so sorry, guys. We cannot. I just
What is
realized we
it?
cannot integrate the Instagram comments into the stream. We are also on YouTube too, so it's much easier to see it. But yes, we are talking about our Miss Aisha Curry and
Yep.
competing and how unhealthy it is to be in a relationship and compete with your spouse, because it will breed out into other unhealthy behaviors, whether that's anger, resentment, hate, envy,
Right.
or even one thing that I've also read about was that competition, not only is it harmful and unhealthy, in some cases it can also be abusive.
Right.
Like if your spouse feels competitive with you, they may try to control you, manipulate you, or sabotage your success in order to promote their own accomplishments or to feel superior.
Right. Yeah, and abuse in any relationship isn't conducive at all.
Right.
So, yeah, of course, you need to talk about those situations before they become abusive.
Mhm.
Recognize those things as red flags, and
Yeah.
if people don't stop being abusive towards you, of course, you need to exercise your options of figuring out how you can exit the situation in a peaceful manner.
Yep. So since you brought that up, let's, I guess, head on to the solutions of this. Because if you find yourself in a competitive, relationship with somebody that you actually really love and care about, what do you do? How do you address it? How can you figure out the best things? Some of the things that we thought about, maybe within a relationship, of course, is communication being the biggest one, to actually sit down and have a conversation with your spouse about what is going on, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you have been observing. Maybe even just if your spouse hasn't come to you directly and said, hey, like, I'm feeling a little envious or jealous about your weight loss or about whatever it is you're going through. Maybe if you can sit down and figure out, okay, well, how can I help you? How can we shift our thinking to away from being separate and instead being a team, and let's tackle this issue or problem together
Right.
as one. Yeah. The chances are that if your spouse, though, is feeling insecure, that an honest discussion could really help, because they're able to let their feelings out and say, hun, maybe I am a little insecure about all the girls that be in your DM.
Mhm.
you know, Ayesha Curry, maybe I'm a little insecure about that. Maybe because there are no guys in my DM. So, what is something that we could do, talk about, or have take place within our relationship that can help us remedy the situation?
Mhm.
You know, and partially, though, a lot of that I do think has to play a part with the person within themselves. Like, how can they feel worthy? Because it really stems from a lot of personal feelings of being unworthy or insecure, or.
Right. And a lot of that is goes back to self-help and therapy. A lot of times you're not able to rectify your issues that goes on within your life, and it takes someone on the outside to help to see that. It really does help when you get that outside point of view
Mhm.
into your life on things in past situations that may have shaped you into being a competitor in your relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and these are maybe signs that you've never thought that you've had before, issues that you never thought you've had before. But it really does take an outside opinion um, for someone to recognize these things.
Yeah.
You can call in and ask us now, and we can help you with that.
Right,
Or either
exactly.
you can go to my wife's course, the wifeconomics.com website, in which she does have some self-help literature and work uh, homework that you can do, and exercises that you can do to better yourself, and then ultimately help you with these issues as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. And we spent a whole 2 weeks actually just talking about communication and addressing and expressing some of these hard issues, and how can you even go about expressing them in a healthy way that not only gets your husband to be receptive to it, but also so that you guys can come together and work as a team. Because another one of the solutions to this is actually being able to come together and create shared goals, to where you both are able to focus on your own strengths, and then how you can use your strengths to better your relationship together and
exactly.
accomplish the goal together.
I think that's probably the biggest one, the best one to me,
Yeah.
because instead of competing with your spouse, figure out ways that you all can work together and accomplish, and I don't know, make more money.
Mhm.
Plan money for your next vacation, without um, over budgeting, or figure out ways that you all can better your love life.
Mhm.
Work together instead of working opposite of each other.
Mhm.
Overall, we're here to help strengthen and build better foundations for families. So think of that. Think of your spouse as your partner, your teammate, instead of someone that you're competing with, which ultimately turns into your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to wake up every day with your enemy. You don't.
Right.
And then let alone if you've been married to this person, then that's a very misfortunate situation to have to wake up to someone that you see as an enemy competitor every day or every so often. That's very detrimental to the relationship.
Yeah.
And
It really,
then
really is.
what else we have here?
Well,
Oh,
that's just the conclusion or ending.
yeah,
Those are our main two.
yeah. So yeah, and I like this too. In the end, getting rid of competition in relationships to make them more healthy and makes each member of the relationship happier. When two
Mhm.
people in the relationship stop viewing each other as rivals and begin to see each other as teammates, it is easier to celebrate each other's successes, since individual success also means success for the relationship. I like that. That's a
Mhm.
great way to sum all of this up. Um,
Yeah.
that's what we need to that's how families need to move forward.
Mhm.
We celebrate each other's successes, give each other's roses while we're here, you
Right.
know. Because when we all wake up in the morning and go to work in the morning, we're not guaranteed to come back. Just let that sink in. So we need to rejoice more in each other's successes, love each other more, and stop competing with your spouses.
Mhm.
There's no need for that. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
Friendly
true.
competition we understand, but when you get down to I make more money than you, why you can't bring in more money in the household, then why don't you help this person figure that out?
Mhm.
Why don't you help your better half trying to figure this out and try to spend this into some sort of competition?
Mhm.
you know it makes the other person feel bad ultimately, because that's what you're doing it on purpose. You're trying to make your husband or your wife feel bad.
So you can feel better.
Yeah, so you can
And
feel
that's
better about yourself. that's
yeah.
that's nasty.
Mhm. It's not love. Love doesn't do that
Yeah,
at
love
all.
doesn't hurt you.
Mhm.
But sometimes, what is it, tough love? That's a whole nother situation, but
Yeah, that goes to the constructive
criticism
criticism
part.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not hurting feelings though. Like
Right.
you can constructively give criticism or feedback on something without being rude and nasty about it.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. This is so cool. So we're going to be doing this Monday through Friday. We would love if you all will call in, request live to join. Tell us your experiences on your relationships. Maybe you have experienced a competitive relationship before, how you got through it. Maybe you didn't. How'd you leave it? All of these are things that people can really use to help them in their life. And that's really the channel and platform we're trying to give here. Blueprint Family Jewels is all about everybody coming together and saying not just the problems, but providing solutions and saying, hey, this worked for us.
Right.
We hope this can work for you so that we can build more families, healthier homes for healthier people within our communities.
Right. And then for those single women out there, go to www.wifeconomics.com, and there you will learn how to be a wife,
Mhm.
with the skill sets to be a wife, and then how to get your man and keep your husband, turn
Yeah.
your man into your husband.
Understanding men is a big one.
Hmm.
I think it's funny to say, but even like Aisha Curry as a wife, I think if she had a deeper understanding of men and understanding how men are very competitive, but they don't want to compete with their spouse and how they would prefer not to have that,
Right.
they want you to be a space of peace. If she kind of had that understanding of men, I think a lot of problems and issues would fall away within relationships because women, we lack a solid course until the creation of wife economics that actually talked about what men really desired in a way that we can understand it and how we are different, and not only just say and point out how we're different, but how that we can come together as women and men and work together within our differences to make a better place
Yep.
together. Yeah, so I'm gonna end it off here.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we appreciate you all coming out tonight. Thank you, Instagram family, YouTube, and peace.